So hello and a very warm welcome to you all. My name is Mark Morley and this is the IT Business Partner Podcast, a unique series where I'm joined every week by business partners and business relationship managers from around the globe. In this series, each conversation is a mix of insight, of honesty and an experience, and the kind of perspective that you only get when you've been deep in the trenches of business partnering and made it through to the other side. Before we jump into today's conversation, please indulge my usual two requests. The first, if you've got any thoughts or feedback on the podcast, I'd love to hear them. Your input helps shape the kind of conversations that we have here. So if there's a subject you'd like me to explore, please do let me know. And secondly, if you're finding value in these episodes, please do hit the follow or subscribe button and give the episode a thumbs up if possible. Only half of you that watch this series are subscribers, so please do me a favor and hit the button and share our link with anyone else that you think might benefit from our content. So on to today's episode, and I'm delighted to be joined by Ricardo Pinto, our first guest from Portugal. Ricardo is a strategy and portfolio business partner, and I'm looking forward to hearing what that entails. So good morning to you, Ricardo. Thanks so much for joining me. Can I hand over to you for a quick introduction before we see what your journey here has been like and what business partnering means to you?
First of all, thank you for having me in your podcast. I think what you're doing is a very important job, disclosing what is this role and what does it mean in different organizations. So let me start by explaining my role. I work at a oil and gas company based in Lisbon. Although it's multinational, it operates in 10 different geographies. My role is in the IT department as a strategy and portfolio business partner. So what does that entail? Meaning there are two different strategic approaches, okay, in our organization. You have the top-down, which comes from the business needs up until the IT requests that answer those needs in the form of a portfolio, a set of projects or programs until to serve each of those 5 business units that the organization that is a part of the organization. So if you look at the value chain of the organization, you have the upstream business unit, and then on that value chain you have the midstream that is comprised of two different business units: the energy management involving in trading of those assets, and the industrial business unit that refines and distributes those products, up until the downstream or commercial business unit that makes them available for our end customers. And we're talking about different businesses, and thus the complexity of handling that portfolio. We can talk about solar products, we can talk about gas, diesel, we can talk about gas bottles, we're talking about maritime and flight fuels, all sorts of products. And this is talking about our top-down portfolio. But we also have another aspect, which is a more strategic one, thus strategy and the role name, which is the bottom-up, meaning we need to be ready for any kind of business need that those business units throw in our way. So we need to make sure that we have the proper infrastructure, that we have supporting contracts with cloud providers, also all sorts of software applications and infrastructure that answers to those needs, to make sure that we're delivering value, not just about revenue, but making sure that we have the right infrastructure to support our customers and our partners as well.
Which of those two things, do they take up an equal amount of your time, would you say?
So I started in this role about 3 years now, and was focused on the portfolio, working on the commercial business partners team, acquiring those business needs, assembling those business cases. And this is a very important tool. Although this is a role that lives a bit in the gray, and it's a bit what you make of it, there is also checks in place to make sure that you do what is required to make sure that those projects, those ideas come to life. And the business case is one important tool in which we evaluate the benefits claim from the business sponsor, from the product owner that submits those ideas against those which are the expected costs. Costs in human resources to develop those solutions, systems, and so forth. So during a certain period of time, that was my focus: working with business, gathering ideas, and make sure that those business cases were bulletproof. Although we do invest a bit on those business cases, those statements of needs, you try not to be too much thorough. At least get 70% certain, because there's also a time to market that you have to meet. And if you spend all the time making sure, this is going to work definitely, but we need one more investment estimate from another team to make sure that the benefits outweigh the costs, to make sure that this has a leg to stand on. It comes to a point in which you look at the return on investment, and you actually look at the nature of idea or the value that is at risk to have a certain safety to say, okay, let's go, let's move on. Of course, senior leadership needs to always approve it, but that was my life with portfolio. I had to say, for the past year, I've been mostly dedicated to the strategic part of it. Supporting other teams, looking into contracts that have been, changed by our vendors. The majority of the industry is moving towards a software as a service subscription model, and we had a lot of, perpetuity contracts that were changed by it. Obviously, that messes a bit on what is our budget. So you have to look out for that and make sure what do you actually need in terms of infrastructure. What are the systems that are actually critical? Which ones are not and do not need redundancies? Do not need 24/7 maintenance contracts. So you look into it as a whole, and then you discuss with other teams, what is our strategy for the upcoming years in terms of infrastructure? What do we have to do? Do we have a complex cloud landscape? Can we simplify it? What we want to do with our on-prem resources? How can we make it usable? Do we have to renew certain contracts? If we do renew certain contracts, can we use it for specific business operations to ensure business continuity, make sure that we're independent of any change of contracts or change of minds by some vendors? So it's a bit the role, talking and discussing both with business. What are your needs? What are your strategic thoughts for the upcoming years? What are we doing about the energy transition? Okay, you have ideas about green hydrogen projects. How can we help with that? You probably need systems to ensure that. So you have to reach people. You have to be on their level, understand what they're saying. Often you have to read the room, see what is the correct time to act or not. So pretty much this last year has been working on that, and I think one of the major differences was from the past years, splitting from what was portfolio to what is strategy, was that at first with 5 different business units, meaning that they all had ideas, they all wanted to submit their projects, we were overwhelmed with requests. Even by scaling the team, it comes to a point in which you already have a good amount of resources to answer those requests, but the ideas come pouring in. And we did something interesting, which was we're going to start charging by this discovery process that we have with an idea. So if they say, we have an issue with our one of our products order requests is not things are not going great. The number of requests that we have does not match the number of deliveries that we're performing. We have to look into it, and then we come to realize, okay, it's a stock issue. We can have a system for that, but we need to investigate a bit further, draw a solution, estimate on what it costs in full detail, and then we start charging for that discovering process. And with that became an automatic funneling of those ideas, meaning only the ones that had the best value for the organization would win and would be implemented. And that was a game changer at portfolio level. At a strategic level, we did something else, and we've been executing it for the past year, which is also very interesting. Which is, we look now at the KPIs in which those business cases were created, using the previous example of the number of orders requested versus delivered. We took a snapshot at the investment approval phase, and then we took a snapshot of those KPIs after the project was delivered, and then 1 year afterwards. And then we do a comparison. Okay, did this actually brought value to the company? Yes or no? And if yes, what else did we discover by that? And sometimes you discover interesting things. Everything pointed out that certain projects would be perfect, but then we have to also look at other outside threats, such as the competition might offer a different pricing strategy, more aggressive, new loyalty programs, and you have to be mindful of what is going on, not just inside your organization, but outside of it.
Yeah, I think, and it all sounds fantastic what you're doing, and it's and I've spoken about this before, but the BRMs or the business partners, they're kind of like the stoppers and thinkers. So, and Jeremy mentioned this way back in episode 1, that the BRMs the value can be measured not on what they've done, but on what they've prevented. Because when you've got this big funnel of things coming in, you've only got a certain amount of resources. And if you can prevent things going through that funnel that aren't going to generate value, or not going to generate as much value as other things, then that's obviously a huge value add. But the fact that you're charging people is a good way to make them stop and think. So they're kind of assisting in that process, that they're rationalizing their own projects. Because I imagine I guess it's too easy just to kind of blast everything through the system and let someone else worry about it. Whereas if you have to stop and think, I'm going to be charged for this, so it better make sense. I think that's a great way of rationalizing those projects. But it's also, and I was thinking as you were speaking then, the BRM, especially from a portfolio perspective, there doesn't really seem to be other people that do take a holistic view, to kind of stand back and look down on everything and say, okay, what have we got coming through? What makes sense and what doesn't make sense? And being able to judge, competing initiatives, because, the business will need things done, but it's only going to generate a certain amount of value with a certain amount of resources. And you need these people to stand back and say, well, hang on, let's just park this for a moment. We've got something else coming through that's going to generate value faster or more value. So we're going to come back to that. And I think without the BRMs and business partners there, that's something that doesn't often get done. Some organizations do have the portfolio management or investment management, but it's not common, at least not that we've seen. But that's kind of slack that the BRMs definitely pick up. But I think, charging people to make them think twice about what they're putting through the pipeline is a great initiative, and it sounds like it's working.
Yeah, well, I do have to admit it wasn't always the case, and what we've been doing more recently was done on top of the work of someone else. So we've been, incrementing this way of working, make sure that we clear a bit of the gray that is associated with this role. But it's also a very good thing that what we had is that this role always had sponsorship from the leadership team and from senior management. And this is important because there was always a need to someone to fill in this role and to reduce a bit of the gap that exists between business teams and IT technical teams. And having been on both sides, that provides me with perspective and empathy for both situations. And what I came to realize is people at a business level that are working with operation, that are working with customers, demanding customers, that have to uphold contracts, both end of those contracts. They have obligations, and sometimes when they perform a request and the technical team's response is, well, you need to do a thorough investment estimate. Well, I can't wait for that long.
Yeah.
This needs to happen now. I'm having problems today. How can you help me? So the importance of this role also speaks inwards, going to those technical teams, trying to explain what is the nature of the problem, what is happening now, and then we need to look at faster mechanisms to address those situations. And we do. We call them internally, we call them change requests. You could also address them as corrective maintenance or evaluative maintenance. But the thing is, sometimes you have to go to discuss with a colleague that says, well, I don't have a cost object in which I can put those hours. I have a lot of team. My entire team is dedicated to this project and to this project. Let's take a look at it. Let's look at other priorities, because this problem is happening on a business that has an output of revenue this big, and
Yes.
perhaps sometimes we're putting people to work dedicated to a project that doesn't bring that much value onto the table. So it's not just at the business preparation phase that the business partner is important, but also during execution, to translate a bit of what's happening between the business operations and the resources that we have available, and going a bit downstream on that cycle, on development cycle. Also at the end, when we turn it over to operations and actually measure that value, but you need to make sure that people that originally requested those systems, those solutions, actually can work with them, because the good part of this role is that in a very short period, you've seen a lot of different situations. So I've already, and people and often leaders discuss this, that failing is good. Failing gives you perspective. It teaches you a lot of things. And what we see is that sometimes you deliver a product that people don't use. And if people don't use it, then you failed. By all accounts, you failed. I remember situations in which you deliver stock management product, and then you see people on the field still using pen and paper. So those things happen in the past, obviously, but those things happen, and then you had to look at the process. Okay, perhaps we're complicating things throughout the process. And I think the beauty of this role, it allows you to take what was your past fails, what was your past experience, and I looking back to my career, what I see is everything else that I did prepared me to carry out this role today. I started as a developer years ago, soon realized that, well, this is interesting. I'm, working on technical challenges, trying to overcome them. But then I realized the actual challenge was done at a business level, handling with contracts, handling customers. And soon I pivoted what was my path onto a more into a different role. That had influence on how things are decided. And I think that's the correct word here, and that's the key word, to hold influence. Having worked with as a product owner in the past, having a concept of what a persona is, a user journey, the importance of that, not just to end consumers, but also between businesses, internal with employees, to look at our flow, process flow is done, looking at how decisions are made, how operations are handled, and making sure that we simplify them to take the burden out of the people, to make sure that things go smoothly. And throughout that, you make mistakes often until you iterate them and you come to a standoff that serves everyone and provides value to the organization.
Did you seek out this current role, and were you aware of kind of business partnering as a role before you moved into it?
Actually, when I started at this present company, which I'm at 5 years ago, my first role was executive assistant, and that taught me something. It taught me how to be on a C-level environment. But I have to admit, I failed miserably at that role.
Okay.
Soon after that, I enrolled in a business analyst responsibility, and that was, I think, perfect suited for my needs at the time. It allowed me to actually know the organization, know the business units, know the areas, the leaders, the decision makers in the departments. It allowed me to work on solutions together with technical teams, translating what were those business needs into functional requirements, to make sure that we would deliver solutions that were actually used by both customers and our colleagues. Then evolved to a product owner role, in which that was also a challenge, because at that level you're very close to the business and what their real needs are. You no longer have you're no longer shielded. You're totally exposed to frustration, to both frustration and to the need to respond immediately to a situation. And you have and while you're doing that, you are also aware that you have technical teams that actually develop things that are required at each iteration, and you know you have to be careful what you put in a roadmap right in front of you. Layers the foundations to make sure that you're able to deliver value iteration upon iteration. And then you present it to your stakeholders, and then you have to read the room and make sure and ask them, does this answer your requirements? What do you think of it? And you take that feedback and then you discuss it with the team, and then you try to build a better product. So the way that I came to be in this role was, I'm not sure if I'd say it was unexpected, because looking back, I think it was a natural evolution. But I was invited then into this role at the time that the organization was reshaped, and it allowed me to bring this luggage with me, this past experience, and put it to use. Whatever I failed, and I did fail as an executive assistant, whatever I learned as a business analyst about all the business process and operations that we have in place, and what I've learned about our customer needs as a product owner. So all of those past experiences allow me to perform as I do today, learning every day, and that is the other key aspect of this role. You have to be humble, because you know that you're learning every day, both from technical teams, both from business teams. But I have to say, nowadays, you have to look and you have to investigate a lot to see what other companies are doing, what are the technological trends, what are the outside threats to your core business, and you end up reading a lot of reports from your competition, either internal reports, to make sure that we're on the right track, because there's always a bit of a difference between what someone on upper management and leadership roles say, and then what actually happens sometimes. But and I understand that it is all moving parts. It's moving targets, and you have to keep up with them.
Yeah.
Although you have a strategy in place, you also have to be mindful of what happens at an operational level, because that it also influences strategy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have to be able to see what can pose as input to your strategy and refine it or discard it.
No, you definitely, as a business partner, you definitely need your finger on the pulse and be aware of what's going on around you, what's coming down the line. When you moved into this role, was it established? Was there a clear idea of what it was you needed to do as a person in your role, who you needed to deal with, how you needed to deal with them, what you needed to be thinking about? Was that already established? So you kind of knew when you took on the job, this is what's required of me?
The things that I do today and the things that my colleagues with a similar role do today are not the same things that we did 3 years ago.
Right.
So in the beginning, what was established was that, and this remains still today, is that this role is responsible for procuring that portfolio from the business needs and to build it. The strategic part of it came later. And also, what was established right from the bat was that you guys, your role is you are the escalation point. If someone in business says, "Oh, the system stopped working," and we have monitoring systems in balance to check when operations fail, but you immediately get a phone call for someone from business. Someone always very angry, someone always very surprised for this is happening.
Yeah.
I think this is a bit funny because most people think that an IT system is something that is bulletproof.
Yeah.
It is not. Either is it due to human failure, either it is due to external threats. And companies are attacked every day. Cybersecurity is an actual concern in organizations. And looking into it, I would say that the escalation manager, or so to say, that was the first intention behind the creation of this role. A second to that would be to actually build a portfolio, make sure that the work comes pouring in, so that the teams are busy delivering value. Those were two of the main responsibilities that was described to this role, and they remain true up until this day. What came after was that now we're actually building a portfolio, we're delivering projects, we're delivering programs, or sometimes we're not. You also have to think about the times that you fail, because there are all sorts of things that happen in an organization. Priorities pivot, change, and you have to be ready for that. By doing that, you come to realize you have to work on other aspects to make sure that whatever you're doing at the moment actually answer those needs. So outside of the common portfolio that we work with, we also established OKR framework, objectives and key results, to be on par with what the portfolio requests. So let's say a good example was, if you have a portfolio of projects, you also need to measure the output of value of those projects.
Right.
So something that we put on our OKR framework are a set of key results to make sure that at least 80% of our projects have measurable KPIs in their business cases. And that is a key result that to achieve for in the OKR framework. And then we'll enlist a set of initiatives for that. Either it is to gather a metrics catalog from the organization so that we compare what exists, what is described by a business sponsor in a business case, to actually are the KPIs that support his business operation. And we're thorough at that aspect, and not pencil pushers, obviously, but we at least confront, well, you're stating a KPI that doesn't exist here. Why is that? Well, it's a new business, it's a new idea, it doesn't exist yet. Okay, let's do that. And then make sure that that metrics catalog gets feed with that new KPI, and that we pointed out to the dashboard that measures it. And by doing that and creating another initiative to develop that dashboard, so you're fitting that OKR framework year after year with actually initiatives, key results, and objectives that make sure that we're ready for new portfolios every year. So that didn't exist with this rule, that OKR framework definition. And that was something new that we had to came up to make sure that we're not only reacting to business needs, but in some sense we are anticipating them.
And is that something that you can share with people? Because every guest I speak to, one of the issues is, how can we demonstrate to people what it is that we're doing? We know that we're adding value. The people we're working with do know we're adding value, but there's always this question of, these business partners, what is it that they're doing? How can we put a number on what they're doing? So this OKR process, is that something you can share to your partners and to elsewhere in the organization to say, look, this is the impact we're having?
Well, then afterwards, we built a dashboard that actually measures the progress of each initiative. Let me step back a bit. Each objective has a set of key results. Each key result has a set of initiatives, and they're fed bottom up. So if you complete all those initiatives that are part of a key result, that key result gets met, and then it's a step forward to closing that objective. And the way that you measure that is the average progress of the key results. The last time I've checked, I think was last month, we're 62% we've achieved 62% of our key results for this year.
Okay.
So we're on track for what we've set to accomplish in the beginning of the year. And that dashboard is available for the organization, mostly to our internal teams, so that and this is very important. If all our internal teams see that and they see what are the initiatives that their colleagues on different areas are doing, that helps to tear down that silo, that wall between delivery, between operations, between maintenance teams, between those enterprise architect teams that draw and sustain our systems and our technological landscape. Yeah. So if everyone has access to that information, they become more transparent on what they're doing themselves and what they're planning in terms to improve whatever need their area has. Meaning, if someone is thinking, well, we're working on a FinOps framework, then that becomes visible in the organization, and other teams realize, well, how can we help with that?
Right.
And then this is also very important, because what we have is a set of those key results that are global within the organization, and they relate to other key results and to other objectives of other business units, of other areas. And this is important because if everyone can see what we're actually doing to achieve the strategy provided by our C-level, by our senior management, then people can also provide new ideas, new perspectives. We can have conversations, informal conversations, breakfast talks around the table before the day kicks in. So it's interesting, and definitely the OKR framework is something new within this role inside the organization I work with, and it's something that did not exist when we.
I think things. Sorry to interrupt, but I think things like that are really good from a motivation perspective as well, because once people really understand what it is they're doing and how that relates to the bigger picture, suddenly, people are more willing to maybe not put more effort in, but they understand what it is they're doing and do more towards achieving that goal. So if you give someone something specific to do, they'll go and do it. But if you give someone an idea of what needs to be done, they'll meet that need. So they won't just get on and do something and then find out later on, actually, this isn't really helping. They'll aim towards that target. And that's something I think that the business partners are really good at doing, is helping bring IT along to say, we don't just need you to do this. We need you to be thinking about this is what we're trying to achieve. So as you said, if along the way you think, well, actually, it'd be better to do something different, or let's adjust this, that's what they'll then do. So you get everyone thinking a bit more strategically. And this is one of the things I think is so powerful, because it's very easy to get stuck into what you're doing. If you give someone a very closed, specific thing to do, then that's what they'll do, and they probably won't do it with much motivation or enthusiasm, because they don't really know what's going to happen afterwards. Whereas if you show the bigger picture and give people understand, and also give people the room to think, allow them to be innovative and creative, and not just give them instructions. I think it's from an organizational efficiency, from performance wise, everyone's going to try to achieve more when they're allowed to kind of work in that environment.
Exactly. If you ask the people and you say, well, this is the objectives that we have for this year, well, what do you suggest? How can we achieve them? They propose their own initiatives, their own key results, and that becomes part of something bigger. So although it makes things more transparent, it also helps in the recognition of work that the individual performs. So if in the past middle management and upper management sometimes were clueless, and this might happen on what is that particular employee doing at the moment, what did he did last year, and what was the value that employee brought to the organization. And if you look to that OKR framework, it's also a record of what did he performed, what did he delivered in the end of the day. Not just working on a project, not just working to support a program or to support a operation, but how did he improve on that. And if you look into it, that record is proof of the work of the individual, and also a valuable tool for middle management and upper management to recognize that individual within the organization.
Yeah. Do you find, or do you believe that with your partners that you're working with, do you think that they appreciate the fact that you can bring them together, so that you don't have a bunch of silos in the business, that people do get the opportunity to work together, and that you're not so much a gatekeeper, you are, to use the Institute's terminology, you're a connector, so you are able to bring people together that hadn't previously worked together, But now that they've got that relationship, things kind of happen more smoothly. Work gets done quicker, and people understand how their outputs affect other people's inputs. Do you find that with the people you're working with?
I'll say today, yes. But it's something that you have to build a rapport for that to make sure it comes to a point in which people actually know what is your function within the organization, what is not your function. And if at first you were seen as someone that was invading their space rather than being someone to help them perform well, I think that shifted, and today you're seen as someone that is important. Make sure that they can reach out to the business if they're having difficulties understanding a requirement, or making sure that that sometimes people within a certain task with certain responsibility get frustrated. People need to ventilate quite often. I think that the business partner should always be able to read the room and see, well, it's not a good day to bring these two together at the table. Let's wait a few days, things to cool down, and then we'll discuss it. And that is fine. Actually, when people get angry, almost at a personal level, that means that they care on what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's not those people hate each other. It's more that each of them has a core belief that what they're doing is correct, and you're value there to provide insight, to provide perspective, but also to realize when is the proper moment for these two individuals to talk together. Because BRM is a bit of you also perform therapy on people. You have to, as I said this before, you have to read the room. You have to know the people that you work with, their personality. That also is very important to consider in different situations. So I think that, and this is my perspective, colleagues and most of the more close colleagues that I have, they joke about it, but I know that deep down they're aware of the importance of this role. That is a layer that helps them. It's not just a layer between them and the business. It is something that helps them.
When we first started working with BRMs and business partners a number of years ago, we saw the role as like a translator. So we got IT speak and business speak, and you got the BP in the middle that's the translator. But then we came to realize they're almost more like marriage counselors. You need to help. We need to help these people understand each other, not on a language perspective, but on an emotional perspective sometimes, because when you're in the role and you have these pressures, you don't really have the time, or I guess the awareness to consider other people and why they've got these feelings and emotions, whereas the business partner can stand back and understand what's going on, what pressures everyone is experiencing, not be biased, not have skin in the game. You're not looking for one result or another. You know what the business needs to achieve, and you know what these people need to do to achieve it. So you can kind of offer that therapy that you mentioned to get people through.
Absolutely.
You mentioned earlier, and this isn't something that we've not really spoken about on the podcast, but process improvement. So we've talked about how business partners can help with innovation, because you're always forward looking and you can keep your ear to the ground or your finger on your pulse, as we said earlier. But one of the ways that the businesses do enable innovation is to make sure your business is working properly and that the processes are all effective. So is process improvement something that you do spend much time on when you're working with partners?
Yeah, definitely. if we look at our own processes that we had to document to make sure that we have that we can legitimate our role within the organization. And I have to say that I work in a company which is overburdened with processes. You have regulations, you have procedures in place, and in order to legitimate what you want to do, such as what we were discussing earlier, like a post-investment review, to do benefits verification on the projects delivered, you need to write a complete procedure on that.
Right.
But you also have to write the process of what is your role within the organization, in what is its main function. So of talking about the strategic part, even on that level, you have a process for that in which to build the first draft of a strategy, you have to look inwards, you have to look outwards, retrieve technological trends, make sure that the roadmap that each team has for their area is in line with what the business needs are, to enlist those business goals, and make sure that the strategy is on par with that, and then deliver a first draft to upper management, to business units, make sure that they review it, they provide input to it, and then you iterate on that, and that is the strategic development. And then you move on to the strategic execution, in which that OKR framework comes in place also to make sure that what you're delivering matches what are the intentions that you developed on the strategic ideation. And this just to say that it's not just you cannot talk your way out of things. You actually have processes in places, and you have to run by them. And then at an operational and business level, they also have their operations in place. Even let's say that for a fleet management area, or fleet card management area, that has a lot of processes in places between the communication of different systems and the input of people, of humans in that system, to make sure that both the card and the PIN number reach to the customer safely. You have to look at that entire flow in that entire process to make sure what can be improved. You often received ideas and projects and change requests for those operations, and then you come to realize there's a lot of space and a lot of it is permeable to human error at this stage here, How can we automate this part of the flow? Or sometimes you need to question an entire flow or an entire business operation. And that also has came to pass in which you walk into a specific operation that provides services to certain business customers in a very spread thin in our geography, that consumes resources, that costs a lot of money to maintain and operate per year, and they sometimes ask for a project that definitely the investment costs outweigh the benefits that you have for the upcoming 6 years. And then you start to question the entire business. Should this exist? And at that point, it's good to have those processes documented. It's good that the people that are in charge of those processes, because that's the only way to question or to improve them.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah. One thing I didn't ask is how many are there in your team, and how many kind of partners do you have relationships with, if you can put a number on it?
I think we're about 15. So each business unit has a business partner lead, and then a certain amount of business partners that work under that business partner lead. It might be 1, 2. It kind of depends on the size and volume of the business unit that they serve.
Okay.
On top of us, we have a strategy and portfolio lead that coordinates our work.
Okay.
And she does a great work, I have to say. And because this is a very...
In case she's listening.
She listens a lot. Because this is challenging. If you have a business partner team that serves the commercial business unit, and you have a business partner team that serves the industrial and refineries business team, or business partner that serves energy management or renewables, they have different needs. They have different organizational structures below them. And what happens is that sometimes we try to make sure that everything obeys a certain structure, a certain framework, that what we do for one business unit is the exact same thing that we do for another, but that doesn't work. We have to human beings have a tendency to put order into chaos, or to recognize patterns, and to work on top of those patterns. What we have to do is make sure that we realize when it's time to act and provide a uniform approach to all business units, or the opposite, to handle each business unit for a certain topic separately from what you do to another.
And do you find, is that something, did you create the framework and the structure you spoke about that you kind of try to follow? Is that something you developed internally as you were going through the role, just to find out what works and what doesn't? Or did you have to use any kind of external?
Still figuring that out. We're still figuring that out. There's no magic formulas for everything. I think we're gonna still need a couple more years until we actually, and it's not just the responsibility of our role, but also our upper management. We have to look the way that we're structured to make sure that what you're doing for each business unit is scalable and could be implemented. What you do in one can be implemented on another.
One thing I wanted to circle back on, because one of the things that really interests me is how people got to be in the role. So, and there's always different paths. There are some similarities. I mean, commonly we get a lot of people that have technical backgrounds, so they'll start in development, and then they'll have a taste for business, and they'll become business analysts, and then they move into the BRM or business partner role. Other people have a totally different track, and we've had people start off as lawyers or as accountants. But one thing that always kind of fascinates me is what people can bring from previous roles into the business partner role, and how it can help. And one of the things that just made me think, when you said that you're an executive assistant, one thing that role probably gave you was an insight into the roles of power and influence, and how people don't necessarily need titles to have influence, and that it's very important when you need to get something done to know which people to contact. Is that something that you found when you're in that role and you've been able to bring into this role?
That role was determining to get to know who are the decision makers in the organization, the go-to guy for every different situation that you're challenged with on a daily basis, but also gave insight of the enormous responsibility that senior management has within an organization. They're bombarded every day with operational issues. And it doesn't mean that the people below them or that work with them are not competent at dealing with those situations. It's because nowadays IT plays a major role within a company. You cannot achieve anything. You cannot put a product in the hands of a customer without IT people, IT systems have a part on it. Infrastructure and so on.
Mm.
And so any incident that sometimes happen during an operation, senior management is sometimes the first one to be notified, and what happens nowadays is those people, our leaders often say, well, you have a business partner to deal with that. When we have a system in place that makes sure that your needs are answered as soon as possible. You have different escalation tiers and make sure whatever problem that it's an operation, it gets solved in minutes. Depending on how critical it is, can be hours. So as an executive assistant, I witnessed that taking place. So it also provided me insight that those people time is valuable. They have a lot of teams to coordinate. They have responsibilities in reporting to the C-level. And what happens is that you see that responsibility being poured on the shoulders of that people, and you sometimes might think they're being rude or impatient. They don't have time for bullshit. And you have to be straightforward in what you're saying and what is happening, and that is something that I've learned in that role. Is you have to be as direct as possible, but also to choose the time in which you address people. Make sure that you look at them. Are in the good mood right now? Is it is it the right moment to address about this situation? Because you also have to it's not just with that role, but with I think the majority of roles, you have to be aware of what is your responsibility, what you are, what is your entitlement in terms of decision making, and what is not. So sometimes you have to pass a decision by someone else, and being in that role made me realize that those people get bombarded.
That's interesting because
and respect for that, because if someone would ask me, can you step up into a leadership role, major role in the organization, at this point in time, I would say I would have to answer, I'm still not ready for that.
Right.
I'm still gathering the correct skills in order to deal with that, because time management can be difficult, and you also need to recognize that once you get to a point in your career, what do you provide? What do you think is most valuable? Is it your career or your profession, or having time with your family, kids, and with your friends? So you have to make sure that you reach a point in balance, that you recognize what is important at a certain time, and if you're able to progress to another role or not. So, meaning that I'm still getting comfortable with this role, trying to make sure that I can manage my time, my responsibilities, before I can move onwards onto something else.
Yeah, that's a really important point, and a good perspective. It's also interesting, I mean, because that role that you had, if you hadn't been in that role, you probably wouldn't have had that appreciation, and you'd be thinking differently to how you think now. So it's, I always find it interesting in what leads people to think the way they do. Just touching on skills, and I'm conscious we're kind of almost running out of time, but there's a few things I wanted to ask you. So in terms of learning things that help you in your role, I mean, for auditors, for accountants, for business analysts, or there's kind of a set path that you can follow. If you want to learn how to be a good business analyst, this is what you do. And for BRMs and business partners, there is the institute that have their training certifications, which I think are great. But I think because being a business partner is such a broad role, there really are lots and lots of skills that you need to be able to perform your role effectively. And I just wondered if while you're being in your role, are there things that you've learned that have really supported you? I mean, I spoke to someone recently and they said that they went on a change management course and that really helped them think a different way. But are there things, we've had people that have improved their finance acumen, there are people that have improved their sales ability. Are there things that you've learned, either training that you've been on or things that you've learned from other people that really helped you in your role?
You said something very interesting. Yeah, other roles get specific certifications. I remember being a business analyst. I did the BABOK, the business analyst book for the PMI Institute. Got that certification to handle all of that life cycle of business requirements, building RFQs, RFIs, all of that, all of those things that are important. But going into a business partner role, you don't get a certain specific certification for that, because you gotta have soft skills. You have to have able to provide your input, your influence onto others, to lead not in a vertical way but on a horizontal way,
right,
to sort out what is happening on a daily basis. But you do need a strong foundation of business analytics. You need to understand what are the business numbers, what is value at risk, and how can you perform, or how can you address it. You need to learn about your business operation. You be thorough that know what is your core business, what your company sells at the end of the day. But then there are certain things that I felt the need that certain skills that I found the need to make sure that I would get them. I did a post-graduation last year on marketing strategy and innovation, because one of the key aspects of this role is to challenge internally in terms of business ideas. Meaning you have to look at the market landscape, see what's happening, look at what's happening with the EV charging network, make sure that your company is answering the customer needs properly, or identify risks that may come in legislation, and see what impact does that have in our tech operation, and the actual charging points, and the gas stations, point of sale systems, etc. And it also provided me a way to identify what is innovative and what is not. It provided me with those tools. It provided me with better negotiation skills to use. It also provided me with a value-based management approach to what we're doing as a business partner.
right,
To be able to assess what is important, what is critical, what brings actual value into the organization, and to recognize different types of value within the organization. It's not just about revenue. It can be active users within an application. So make sure that you have a reach to people if you want to send out a marketing campaign, and so forth. So the thing is, no one will tell you, well, if you're a business partner, you need to do that postgraduate. You need to make sure that you have a course that teaches you on business analytics, negotiation, marketing, communication, and that you develop those skills, and you have a knowledge of that, of what that core responsibilities are. You have to talk to people. You have to, sometimes investigate, go into those faculties that provide those courses, and compare. Sometimes what I remember is, while investigating for that specific training, is I came to realize that's a lot of offering, but that offering is more specific to different sectors, like retail and banking. And then to find something specific for the my sector, the one that I work, and in which I've invested a lot of my life in, which is oil and gas, energy and renewables and so forth. You have to go for niche trainings and niche courses. But obviously, if I had to recommend someone specific trainings, it would be in communication, innovation, leadership, business analytics. I think those are important to establish, what you need as a core foundation for the business partner role.
Okay, perfect. So we're kind of out at the end of our time now. So the last question I have for you is there any word of advice that you can share with those listening? Something that if you could offer some support or guidance or a tip for anyone just to improve their role, help them along, what would it be?
I would say that about this role, you don't get an handbook on what the responsibilities of a business partner, and you build on top of whatever responsibilities the organization that you work at provide. They will give you a set of core responsibilities, but there's a gray area there that allows you to build something else, allows you to prove your value within the organization. And I would like to say that there's a magic formula that you can do for every sector that we work in, for every type of company, but organizations are different from one to another, from one sector to another. I was speaking earlier about the OKR framework. That is very useful to make sure that whatever projects and programs that you are assisting in and delivering to the business to answer their business needs can be useful. It might happen that in your organization you already have someone else with that title and responsible for that OKR framework. So you just need to identify what is missing and make sure that you recognize and identify if it makes sense for the business partners to step in and to assume that newfound responsibility. The thing is, be open within this role. You need to develop your social skills because sometimes people are not willing to share. People are not willing to provide insight on what they're thinking. And you work with information, and you can only assist and help if you have information. So you have to be comfortable being around others. If you lack that skill at this time, make sure you develop it. So I would say the most important thing is of a business partner is its core capability is communication, handle and manage communication and stakeholders properly.
Wonderful. Well, look, thanks so much, Ricardo. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and it's nice that we've touched on points that have not been touched on before in other episodes. So there's something new for people here. So I really appreciate your time and sharing your insights and experiences with us. It's great to see how far you've come and how the role has developed since you've been in it. So I'm looking forward to seeing where you go with it and how your team develops. Thank you again. I'm looking forward to publishing this out, and I'm sure we'll get some great feedback from this.
Thank you for your words, Mark. Don't stop what you're doing. Please keep doing it. I'm gonna share your podcast with my team. Make sure that they all subscribe your podcast. And
thank you.
Take a look at your website. I think this community is very important, and that was something that I was feeling amiss. That sense of a community and this role. I seen my colleagues going year after year to different symposiums, different forums in which they can discuss about the intricacies of their role, but that was something that we didn't have, or we don't have, and you're filling up that empty space, and that's amazing. Thank you.
Awesome. Oh, thank you for saying that, Ricardo. No, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your support. Thanks so much.